What's up, fellow nerds of the internet? Welcome back once again to the Nerd Loft. Now, normally I like to say that I go to the cinema to escape from my crushing sense of existential dread, but this film was too big a release to not make an exception for. And who knows? Maybe I'll make another exception for Oppenheimer. See what I did there? So, in a world where everyone is now claiming that intellectual properties are dead at the cinema, and no one wants to go and see resurrections of the same old stuff that we know, after Flash not doing very well, Indiana Jones not doing very well, and Marvel Cinematic Universe movies apparently all being the same, can an intellectual property that has basically been older than a lot of us combined make its big break at the cinema? Let's get into it. So Barbie, or Barbie the movie, however you really want to address it, is a film by Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as Barbie and Ken. And it's based on the world-renowned brand of doll, the Barbie doll, who has had multiple different careers and iterations and versions over the years. Now, love the brand or hate the brand, depending on what your opinion of Barbie as a symbol is, whether you think that she's representative of all people in all careers or holds women to an unrealistic, idealistic standard. Interestingly, both of those opinions are addressed in the film. So the plot of it is that Margot Robbie plays stereotypical Barbie. In her own words, she is the Barbie that you think of when someone says, think of a Barbie. And she starts having these thoughts of like an existential crisis and has to go into the real world to fix these problems. And it's like there's this crossover between Barbie world and the real world. Hilarity and jokes ensue. Jokes mainly pointed at the patriarchy, which obviously, like, if you're gonna make a Barbie movie, you can't make a Barbie movie and not have it address things about the patriarchy, right? And I think that's where a lot of the divide over this film comes in, because I think that there are people that are intimidated by this film, and if you're one of those people, you're the exact kind of person that probably should think about why they're intimidated by this film. So basically, whether you love Barbie or hate Barbie, dependent on your opinion, there is moments in this film that you will get something out of. Now, I'll be honest, I did not expect this film to be as funny as it was. I kind of expected it to be kind of self-referential, and it is for a lot of the parts of it, but it also outwardly addresses the effects that Barbie has had on the world, whether through positive or negative means. And it's all kind of poked fun at that. And it's kind of also a lot of jokes about the way that the world is and where Barbie's place in that world is. Now, I'm not going to say that this film is like wall-to-wall jokes. It's not like the Lego Movie or anything like that. But I did hear someone kind of compare it to Anchorman, which I thought was quite clever, because it is very good jokes throughout, and it's kind of just about people navigating the world that they're in and having a little bit of silly fun in the process, with also a deeper meaning at play. So yeah, while it isn't wall-to-wall humour all of the time, all go, I also think that there is not one joke in the film that doesn't land, and there's only really one big joke of the film towards the start that is like a sexual innuendo double entendre. There's only like one sex joke in there, maybe two. The rest of it is just easily accessible jokes mixed with very clever, subtle nuances. And one thing I might have to say is that while the humour I thought was very, very good, and I thoroughly laughed throughout the film, to the point that I was actually having, like, tears coming down at one point, in both laughter and emotion, because there are a couple of moments that do hit a little deeper without saying too much. I will say that even though this is a 12A rated film, it's definitely not a kids' movie. If you have kids that are at the age where they're playing with Barbies and they want to go and see a Barbie movie, it's not going to be something akin to the Lego movie or anything like that. If you've got kids that are like over about 9 and they want to go and see this film, there's stuff that they'll enjoy, and there's stuff like messages that will set them up for things to come. But if you're going to try and take a 5-year-old to see this, expect a lot of it to go over their heads, because the humour is great, but there's so many subtle nuances and deeper messages that they aren't just gonna kind of be interested in. So getting down into like the finer points of the film and the actor's portrayal of it, Margot Robbie does a great job as Barbie. She isn't kind of an airhead bimbo kind of thing. She actually plays it with a lot of soul, like she's actually doing the character justice, but also maintaining that exterior of embodying the character, which is really good. And in fact, there is one point in the film where a narrator comes on, not to spoil a joke, but she says that she doesn't feel very pretty in herself. And the narrator says, as a note for the filmmakers, Margot Robbie, probably not the best choice to make this point. And it's like, okay, yeah, you literally picked someone who is practically the real-life Barbie to look at visually to make that point. But it does also have to be said that Ryan Gosling does an amazing job as Ken. And his whole journey and story that he goes on of finding out who Ken is when he is detached from Barbie is like the whole B story of the film. Because there's a whole character arc to Barbie throughout the film, which is the main crux of the story. But there's also a whole other different character arc to Ken. Because at the start, Ken only really exists when he is acknowledged by Barbie, and Barbie is Ken's whole world. And when they go on this journey together, he finds out who he is when he is not around Barbie. And whether that be for better or worse in the result of the film, it's still a character arc that you kind of go on with him and go, okay, this is also a Ken story. But again, it's just sort of silly people doing silly things throughout the film that ultimately equates to a bit more of a deeper meaning. But for as good as Ken and Weird Barbie and Margot Robbie as Barbie were, I think the person that really steals the show is the unsung hero, Michael Cera as Alan. Because even in his own words, Alan is just Alan. All of Ken's clothes fit him, but he's still just Alan. And there are so many points where Alan just kind of pops up and will say something so minor, but have it be one of the funniest points of the scene. So yeah, Alan, little bit of a scene stealer. And like I've said a couple of times, the film does end with somewhat of a deeper connection and a little bit of a deeper message ongoing throughout. And it isn't just superficial in its filmmaking, as one might maybe expect from a film of this kind of an IP. So it is good that they managed to get some nuances, some subtleties, and a little bit of a message across in there as well. Ultimately, the Barbie film was way more enjoyable to me personally than I expected it to be. I didn't actually think I was going to get a whole lot out of this film, but I loved the humor in it, I loved the self-deprecation, I loved the sarcasm, and I loved the subtleties that were at play throughout. And I do feel like, in some ways, it does deserve a second watch to be able to pick up on some of the more subtle parts that happen throughout the film. So with that in mind, Barbie, or Barbie the movie, or however you want to address it, does get 4 stars from me. It is a very well executed film in its humor, in knowing who its audience is, in playing an unbiased opinion of both sides of the intellectual property, which is quite important. It doesn't necessarily constantly big up Barbie as a character. It does sometimes present the alternative side of things. And also, it is very self-referential, and some of the self-referential humor in it, especially if you know some of the more weird Barbies or the ones that were kind of retracted from shelves, they do get a reference at some points. So if you know about these things from Barbie history, there's probably going to be a reference in there as well. Is it worth seeing at the cinema? The question of the day. Now, I would say there's not maybe a need to rush out to see this film. It's not like there's huge spoilers that are going to happen if you don't immediately see this film. That being said, I do feel like there was a little bit of a different energy, or Kenergy, if you will, seeing this film as part of a bigger audience. It was like there was a feeling there with a bigger audience seeing it, and I don't think that that will kind of translate to watching it on your own at home. So like I said, there's no huge rush, but if you want the experience of seeing it as part of a massive crowd and sharing that feeling together, maybe make an effort to go and see it pretty soon. So Barbie, or Barbie the movie, or whatever you want to call it, have you seen it? What did you think of it? What was your favorite moment or joke from the film? And if you were a Barbie or Ken, what kind of Barbie or Ken would you be? I like to think of myself as being hipster film going Ken, or maybe maybe barista Ken, I don't know. All comments are welcome in the comments section below. Let's talk nerdy. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you would like to see some more, you can click right here to subscribe and see some more funky fresh videos from yours truly. And until next time, if there's one message that I can leave you with that relates to the message of this film, it's be true to who you are. Enjoy yourself for who you want to be, and as always, bring your best Kenergy. Because personally, what I want to think of myself today is that I am Kenna.